Hello and welcome to this special e-Conclave session. I am Sushant Mehta. We are live with Saif Ali Khan. Appreciate you joining us. Firstly, Saif, how has life been under the lockdown?
Well, it's been quite different, and in some ways not that different. But thoughts are constantly with people who are less fortunate than us. Honestly, I mean, on one level, not much has changed. As actors, Kareena and me both have spent a lot of time by ourselves together, um, in our own heads. So we're very, very used to this. There's also some silver linings. We're really happy we've got young Taimur at home,
Yeah.
um, and uh, and all these things. And there's so much to read. There's so much to learn in terms of playing the guitar. There's 150 things to do, but I mean, one forgets in a way that it's not really a holiday. I mean, this is where I think we're all actively fighting a war. We're trying to make sure that we buy as much time as we possibly can, so that health workers can do whatever they can, and that this thing doesn't get completely out of control like it has in other cities.
Right, I'm going to come to Kareena and Taimur in just a bit. But first, as you said, we are fortunate in heartbreaking visuals coming from Bandra and different parts of the country,
Much.
beyond the politics of it all. Your
Yeah.
take on, migrant workers, daily wage workers. Shouldn't we as a society be doing much more?
Well, I think generally and always this is an issue in India, and let's talk about our own country, where there is privilege and there's haves and there's have-nots, quite simply. And I think it's the moral duty of everybody who has to take care of as many has-nots as they possibly can. And we tend to try and do that even when we're not in Corona time. I mean, not just in terms of charity, but in other ways as well. Like, I mean, the people that work with us, we tend to look after their families, and we do as much as we can. And I'm sure we could do more. But at a time like this, more than ever, we need to do as much as we can to help. A lot of people have come forward. I've heard,
Yes.
friends of mine, industrialists as well as film people, have stepped up and organized initiatives. I just spoke with Mr. Neswadia yesterday, and he's come up with quite an amazing initiative also. Of course, all these funds that are being organized by Prime Minister's office and Chief Minister, and various private NGOs. So everybody, I feel, who is in a position to give has to give. The world has to work together. People have to work together to take care of, to avoid a situation where these poor guys and people who are unfortunate will not get, hopefully will get food to eat and shelter and the basics.
Yes. Also, amidst all of this, the term liberal is now like an insult. It's like a gali. People calling others anti-national seems to be in fashion, even as we battle this pandemic, which is paramount, really. And we are here fighting over who's patriotic and who's not, who's a traitor. There are ultra-aggressive fringe groups. Your thoughts on all of these, developments?
Well, actually, I haven't given that too much thought, and this kind of politics is not really something that concerns me. I mean, I'm an actor, and I kind of believe in spreading. I mean, we're one of the things that unifies the country. When we act and when we do what we're supposed to do, which is, really talk about art and spread various messages through that kind of thing. I mean, of course, we're a developing nation in terms of identity, also in terms of politics, also the generation that kind of gave us partition and gave us independence is gone, and with those guys leaving, there's going to be all kinds of new thoughts coming in. There's a tendency towards becoming nationalist, and what does nationalist mean? In many ways, it's a good thing, but what does it being Indian mean? Does it mean being Hindu, or does it mean just being being born in India and having a kind of love for the country? So all these things are being questioned. We don't even know where we're going to end up. And frankly, I haven't boiled my blood or wasted my time really thinking about those issues, because I don't think it's worth my while. And what I am spending time doing is other things. Um, yeah, I do hope. I don't know. I mean, but again, maybe I'm just too privileged to discuss that also. But I do hope that the concept of India that we had is something that stays with us, which is of a secular country, which is about and that's how I think. But I'm aware that's not how everybody thinks. So we'll see. the majority will decide, I suppose, which way this country will go.
Right, and as I said, India seems to be obsessed with your son. Every time Kareena shares a picture of him, immediately it goes viral. I saw you and Taimur paint your wall on your terrace. Talk to
Well,
me
I mean,
about that, spending time with a little bundle of joy.
well, like I said, I mean, perhaps that's the greatest privilege, having um, somebody at home also who really is more than a silver lining. Is someone that's absolutely um, just a joy, and so innocent, and doesn't know what's going on, and has not understood the complexities and the trauma of what is happening in the world, and he's just happy to have his parents around. So that also gives us a lot of energy. And so, we try and think of ways to entertain him and to spend time together. Um, and it's and painting is like one of the things we did.
Right, and through the lockdown, talking about you and Kareena specifically, is there something new that you've discovered about Kareena?
Um, no, not really. In fact, I'm really impressed, and this kind of ability, and it comes from. I mean, in my head, it comes from reading and being aware of how other people have approached similar problems. I don't know if she's read that stuff, but she's got an instinctive grasp on how to break a day down. I think it comes from discipline, discipline in as an actor and as a person, where in the morning you kind of wake up at a reasonable hour and quite early. And read a bit of news and this, that, and then do a bit of exercise, and really sweat it out, kind of before lunch, which just settles the brain. And kind of, have your own time watching some TV shows. She's watching some Spanish TV show. And then at 4 o'clock, even Taimur's doing his own thing, really. He's drawing something and running around. I'm talking to you. We get our own little time. And then we reconvene at about 4 in the afternoon. And have some family time together, and then there's cooking in the evening. And then on some days she wants to change her clothes and wear a slightly smarter outfit, and we sit on the terrace and have a nice chat, and have a drink of something, and just separate time, culturally and physically, into days where we might change into something slightly brighter. So I'm just really, really impressed with her positive attitude. But like I said, this is it's not hard for us.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that we always do, which is kind of stay home and kind of chill.
But through the lockdown, a lot of reports coming in on a lighter note. Tempers are high. You and Kareena, have you gone through any lockdown blues? Any tips, little corners?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've realized that we live in a very competitive world, and a lot of what I'm doing normally is just so competitive. And this time has been not competitive. So it's really been interesting to kind of look at that. And of course, there's days when you wake up and you think, there's been a couple of days, not too many. There's been a couple of days when you've been a bit listless and kind of switched off and saying, okay, this is a bit of a bummer, what's happening. And then obviously everyone lets everyone be at that time. And then we kind of pull up our socks a little later by, like I said, either doing some exercise or just, having a good night's sleep, and then waking up. And there's so many things to be happy about. I mean, I know people are really badly off, and I don't mean to say anything wrong, but like I was reading something about someone who'd been in prison, I mean, you always think of someone who's worse off than you, and you feel that you're privileged. So people who've been in jail, people who've been, there was a guy who kind of tried to knock off the king of Morocco, and he actually didn't try, he was just involved in that coup, and they locked him up in this. He's recorded I've forgotten the name of the book, I was reading about it in a magazine. But it's his horrific experience for 4 years, and how he had to kind of devise a calendar, and then he'd tell stories to the inmates about. So his kind of culture saved him somewhere, where he said, we'll have story time, then we'll try and, meditate a little. I don't know how he got through it, but reading that made me feel that this is kind of a cakewalk. It's weird. I mean, it's a pause, like I don't know how, but I want to learn a language, and I want to play guitar better, and I want to read books that I've never got around to reading. I mean, I've got tons of things that I could do.
Right.
But like I said, I think I've always been like that. Um, so what I'm missing is being productive, is like, going to work,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
Saif, I keep looking at my phone. Apologies for that, because a lot of
Okay.
fans are also sending us questions for you. I'm going to take those as well. But another big issue is, people right now, I don't know if it's their mindset, attacking doctors. Even Salman made a video saying that, listen, whatever you do, that's completely out of line. People right now, what do you have to say about that? I mean, doctors are being attacked. Earlier there were
So
reports that,
I'll tell you what I have to say. I'm saying that, India is a country with all kinds of people and all kinds of mindsets operating at the same time. There's medieval thinking, by which I mean ancient, 15th century burn the witch thinking. And there's modern thinking with nuclear scientists trying to put rockets on the moon and on Mars. So it's all there at the same time. And when you put people under pressure, they react in it's a very fragile thing, human decency and human normalcy. People start behaving like a frenzied mob from the Middle Ages, um, and it is really scary. I'm just saying things could be even worse than this. They still haven't. I think it's a credit to the government, and it's a credit to every Indian who's following the lockdown, that even though it's really hard and it's starting to get to people, not just emotionally, financially is the main thing, they're still hanging in there, because everybody, by staying home, is doing their bit in this struggle. And if people are going to crack and misbehave and like beat up people and explode, I mean, it's not something that completely surprises me. There are people that beat people up for dating the wrong girl or saying the wrong thing or being accused of eating the wrong meat. So crazy behavior should come as no surprise, in this beautiful and varied country of ours. But it's just hope that some of the same people can keep the, the more imbalanced in check. But it doesn't work that way. It depends on what your financial background is, what your educational background is, where you're from, where you are, and what's happening in that particular area. And then, you add fear and uncertainty and all this kind of stuff. And then people just react like maniacs, man. I'm sorry to, it's shameful, but I don't know what to say.
right, no, I think you've been very articulate with your thoughts. Now also, let's talk about films and your career specifically. I'm going to do an instant recap of Saif Ali Khan through 3 decades.
So I just lost your audio. Can you hear me?
Yes. Saif, can you hear me?
Oh, no.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is it fine now?
Why can't I hear you?
Can you hear me now, Saif?
Now I can hear you. It says my internet.
Okay, good. So as I was saying, we're going to talk about your films also. I've been meaning to do this for a long time, as you know. Recap Saif Ali Khan through 3 decades. But first, I have to talk about Tanaji.
Right.
279 crores in India. It's one of the biggest hits of your career. It is the biggest hit of your career and Ajay's career. I was very pleasantly surprised with your performance, because it's, you haven't done something like this ever. It's over the top, one-liner spitting, brutal, unforgiving, evil, general. And it's a commercial Hindi film role. You were fantastic.
Thank you very much. It's very kind.
Talking about Tanaji experience, how you prepared for that, and did you expect this sort of reaction?
How I prepared for it, I think way back, I remember watching films. There's an actor, like Alan Rickman, who had done Robin Hood, and he's the villain Die Hard also. He's probably really famous for that. And I always wondered, how interesting it would be to get a role which you could play larger than life and slightly more theatrical and, with more body language and posturing. And this seemed to be it. And the director wanted it, because my initial approach was to be a little subtle and under. And he said, no, I need this to be more in the Joker space, which is really easy to say, but we worked on it together. And so preparation, I think the first thing you got to do is learn your lines. And that sounds really basic, but you've got to know the lines so that you can say them in a German accent or a Marathi accent or any kind of accent, and then you kind of get more into it. then you get kind of more into it with you can add different layers to the whole thing. So learning the lines, kind of understanding the world, how people would have speak that particular dialect, and what kind of body language would reflect that kind of thought. So it's like a big process. I mean, I guess everyone's got their own way, but sometimes a little flick of the wrist can, express what you're feeling, or how you punctuate, how you articulate those thoughts, and it's just, it's it's what you're feeling all the time, rather than what you're saying. And sometimes both those things aren't the same thing. And it was just fascinating. And I'm really happy it worked out so well. I mean, I thank Om Raut for holding my hand and helping me through that. It was really well directed. And of course, thanks to Ajay and Kumarji for giving me that platform and the freedom with which to do all that.
I'm glad you did that film. I mean,
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Box office numbers as well. Were you
Sorry?
expecting that? Were you expecting the box office numbers? I mean, 279 crores. That's huge.
There's certain aspects to the movie. I mean, it is a very kind of patriotic film that kind of ticks all the boxes when it comes to being larger than life. And it's probably on paper as well. I mean, if there's any film of mine that was going to make that kind of money, this would be something. Yeah. This would be it. But I don't think anyone expected this incredible performance.
Saif, now let's go back in time. I have a confession. I followed your career through the 90s, and I thought this guy is never going to make it. Seems like a misfit for the classic formula films. He puts in the work, but I don't think he's cut out for this. And you told me once that you had to do a sequence in the 90s about your chuha biting the girl, and you had to pull a rat out of your trousers.
Yeah.
Those were difficult times for you. And a lot has changed since then.
Yeah, well, they were difficult, but they were also fun, and that's what everything. And we were very young, so when you're young at that age, I mean, you feel you've got all the time in the world, and you're not really thinking, how incredibly stupid this thing is. Because if that was happening till now, you'd have a kind of existential crisis. At least I would, about the meaning of your art. But fortunately, cinema has also constantly got more and more challenging and interesting and artistic, really. But at that time, luckily we were young, because it wasn't particularly artistic, but there was dancing and there was music, and we had a good time. But looking back on it, there's really nothing to remember, sadly, except some of the relationships one had with people, or having a good laugh with Akshay Kumar back in the day, or doing some of these things.
You mentioned Akshay Kumar. Quickly, I want to take some of your best work. I mean, Dil Chahta, I think Dil Chahta, there's a post Dil Chahta hai Saif Ali Khan, there's a pre Dil Chahta hai Saif Ali Khan. I remember walking out of that film and debating with myself who delivered the best performance, and I was leaning towards you,
right,
above Akshay and Amir. That was how good you were. And I mean, Dil Chahta was, I think that was a turning point.
Well, that's really nice of you to say that, because Akshay and Amir, of course, were, I mean, everyone was taking them very seriously, and they were also they're really good actors, both those guys. So I was never intimidated, but I was always conscious that I'm working with such powerful actors that I better know what I'm doing. And I guess it worked out well.
There are a lot of films to talk about, like Omkara, Langda Tyagi, there was Race, there's Hum Tum, lots of films. But my favorite Saif Ali Khan performance of all time was Ek Hasina Thi.
Nice.
Tied with Sacred Games. I mean, that's sort of a forgotten film. You were brilliant in Ek Hasina Thi and in Sacred Games.
Okay.
Can you briefly talk to us about both?
Well, Ek Hasina Thi had a kind of point to prove back then, because I think I was doing Kal Ho Na Ho, and people were writing things like, Chocolate Boy, and trying to be, and of course, like everyone else, I wanted to be a badass on screen, and there was this, and when this part came, and Ramu, I'd met Ram Gopal Verma, and he offered me the spot with Sriram Raghavan. He said he's a really interesting guy, and you'd like him. And we met and spoke, and we got along. We liked the kind of film. Anyway, it was an opportunity for a guy who's normally doing romantic kind of softer leads to play something a little more dangerous and a little more noir and a little edgy. And we knew it probably is not going to be very commercial.
Right.
But given the budget that it was being made at, it was a chance worth taking. I mean, there's many things to it. I mean, I remember at the same time doing Kal Ho Na Ho just after that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the zone I was in. And Shah Rukh Khan said that I should go to the New York store instead of just wasting my time, doing nothing. He said, go to the Apple store and buy a laptop and learn how to edit or something. That's what he said. And I went there and I asked them to send me some footage. And I started cutting trailers to Ek Hasina Thi. And It was amazing fun. I remember that. Anyway, the point is, it was an opportunity to play someone cool and look a little more manly and a little tougher than this kind of, because like you said, there's a growth, from the 90s, and from being a bit of a misfit and also being a little effeminate looking, to try and create a slightly tougher persona on screen was the challenge.
Finally, Saif, I'm completely out of time, but I have to ask you about your contemporaries, because through the 90s, it's been an amazing journey for all of you. Akshay, Ajay, you, Salman, Shah Rukh, and Amir. I think Akshay and Ajay have had fantastic journeys. They've been so consistent. They've been improving every year, still top superstars. How do you look at both of them? Akshay Kumar and Ajay
unbelievable. I worked with Akshay Kumar. Ajay Devgan, I think, was always a very serious film person. And a kind of industry in himself, and very strong personality. And I guess they all are strong personalities, but he was always a very passionate kind of film. He kind of thinks like a director, and understands the technical side very clearly, and is a passionate film person. So what's happening is an extension of what was always happening. And that's great. And he's also a really cool guy, and very nice person, etc. And Akshay Kumar is somebody that has really, gone from someone who is initially a kind of slightly limited actor, but very good at action, and taken discipline, and just incredible discipline and hard work. I mean, that guy has done it all. I have so much respect for him, because he's taken it and he's become like the most bankable actor which he always wanted to be. He told me when we were kids once, he said, do you want to be Bachchan or who? And I said, yeah, of course, everyone wants to be Bachchan. He said, no, I'd like to be like Dharamji, like Dharminder. I'd like to be more just reliable and consistent, and that's it.
And also, Saif, about Shah Rukh, Salman, and Amir, because you worked with all of them. And Salman is still a top draw at the box office, done 300 crores. Even a flop film with Salman is like a 120 crore film. Shah Rukh is now somewhat out of the picture after being this huge king. Why do you think that has happened? And Amir, his audience has grown and grown and grown, and the audience just trusts him, even though...
No, I don't. I'm very wary of commenting, because they're my seniors, and I respect them all for the incredible fortunes they have amassed, and the incredible fan following, and the amount of work they've done, all of them. But if I had to say something, I'd say that, I think Salman is a really instinctive kind of superstar. He was a superstar from the first shot he gave.
No doubt.
He was just like the country fell in love with him, and they're still in love with him. So I don't think anything's changed really, apart from, maybe getting a little bit older or whatever. And Amir has always, I think, had very interesting choices and a different cinematic direction, but a very strong cinematic mind, and a very clear and different ideas of how he wants to be seen and what he wants to play, and has pioneered so many different kind of things, like the whole technical explosion in cinema. There's been films that he's done, like Lagan, really, and then Dil Chahta, of course. So one can go on about that forever. And SRK, if he's finding a little bit of a tricky time as to, which film to do or how to be seen, I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day. Maybe it's to do with something that he's so strongly identified with a certain era, and becoming the face of Bollywood. I mean, if you looked up Bollywood in the dictionary, there'd be a picture of Shah Rukh Khan at one point, and on many platforms representing Bollywood. So it became synonymous with an era, and when that era passes, perhaps you suddenly need to readjust. But he, like all of them, are amazing survivors. You can't write anybody off, in the sense that, there's good times, bad times, it's all up and down, and they've seen it all. And don't. I mean, because there's a particular resilience to the 90s actor, let me tell you. And it's just a question of finding that right project. And again, like I said, I hesitate to say that because they are my seniors and they've achieved much more than me. So I'm just trying to answer your question.
No, I think you've been very fair with everyone. I'm completely out of time, but one final question I want to squeeze in is about Kareena. I've spoken to all her contemporaries, from Priyanka to Kangana, and they regard her as the best actress of her generation simply because she's always effortless on screen. Doesn't seem like she's acting. She's my favorite. Talking about Kareena, her journey has also been incredible.
Yeah, but what about it? What I think of it?
What do you think of her as a performer? Being a top star and that effortless actor.
It's first of all, again, it's so weird because I just don't. I mean, I think of her as an actor, but I think of her as personally first. So my opinion is probably slightly colored. But I'll give you an example. I have the highest respect. I think she's super cool in terms of the way she lives her life and the way she balances career and home, and is always there, and just the idea she have how to spend time even during this lockdown. I mean, just the other day she said, why don't you cook something special on Saturday and I'll wear a nice dress and whatever. But any actor who can give Alia Bhatt the main part, let's say in a film like Urta Punjab, and just do it because you think it's a good role, you're thinking like a Hollywood actor, and you're saying, no, I just like the part, it's fine, and that's great, and I think her part's fantastic. And then you go on to be the central character in like Veere Di Wedding and make lots of money at the box office. And then you play a small part in, this film with Irfan.
Bajrangi Bhaijaan.
Angrezi medium. And then you say, no, let me be part of the system and the firmament with this, big superstar. Won't take a panga and say, no, I don't want to work with a Khan. I'm Kareena Kapoor. Will play a small part in a Salman Khan film. Will be, very good in a female-oriented film with her pals, Sonam and these other ladies in that lovely movie. Will be Amir's heroine. Will do whatever she wants to, really, and does it all very lightly. That's the key, I think, to not take this really too seriously, because, it's not something you should be. You look like an idiot taking it too seriously because it's not rocket science. So that's, I think, something that I really respect, is how lightly she wears it. And of course, she's born to it. I mean, she's always looked like a movie star. And she, when the camera, if you see her on set, she is so easy. I mean, she's not wearing her shoes and she's wearing slippers and her hair's in curls and she's probably eating something and yakking with her hairdresser. It looks like she was born there. And there's a high level of comfort, and also no bullshit. So it's just easy work, very professional, very, very quiet, not particularly loud and opinionated on set. So super easy to work with, and bloody good.
Okay, Saif Ali Khan.
Put her headphones on.
My time a lot, but thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much. Hope you stay safe and take care of Taimur and Kareena, and looking much more forward to your projects. Thank you, Saif.
All right. Bye, brother. Thank you.